Hello there. Welcome to the Saroy channel, wherever you are in the world, and so much love to each and every one of you. How are you doing? I do hope you're doing remarkably well, and I hope you're keeping yourself very healthy, fighting fit, and lots of lovely, warm, cosy drinks, and perhaps a little bit of something more sparkling, because I've got a very enjoyable story for you tonight. So before we get started, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, click the notification bell and the thumbs up, and let's get started with tonight's story. Dear Sarah, and all your lovely listeners, my life was never the same after my sister disappeared, and there are so many things I would have done differently, with the benefit of hindsight, of course. The police had questioned me hundreds of times over, asking me to try and remember everything that happened that fateful, inauspicious night, hours before my sister disappeared off the face of the earth, never to be seen again. Well, so it would seem. It would seem Officer Edward Price, who was in charge of the investigation, assured me that any detail, however tiny or minuscule, could be edifyingly groundbreaking for the investigation, into eloquently illuminating what happened to my sister. But I was certain I had told them everything that I could possibly remember, about a night that began with so much providential promise. I so wanted to help the police with their investigation. As you might expect, they took my two devastated parents into their headquarters for questioning. My mother and dad are the most genuinely kind people, without a violent bone in their bodies, but they were under suspicion for a while, which aggrieved my heart, for I knew that they would never have harmed a hair on my sister's head. I do remember shouting at Officer Price, "You shouldn't be interrogating my parents. They have absolutely nothing to do with Daisy's disappearance. Open your eyes. Are you completely blind? My parents weren't even with us at that party. Can you not see? My parents adore us. They would take a bullet for us, as they love us so much. You're wasting valuable, precious time cross-examining them, when there's an ambiguous human predator out there wandering around scot-free, who may be hurting my sister even as we speak. Did not Murray tell you that Daisy was seen getting into a stranger's car? He saw it himself. It sounds to me like you're barking up the wrong tree, officer, sniffing down a fallacious, evanescent, illusory trail." Officer Price had been empathetic towards me. "I agree with you, Jeanette. I don't believe for a moment your parents are perfidious, or that they had anything to do with Daisy going missing. But we would not be doing our job assiduously if we didn't leave every stone unturned. You should know, Jeanette, it's routine police procedure that the parents in a missing persons case are always the first to go under investigation." "It makes no sense, Officer Price. One thing you need to use in the police force is perspicacious intuition. It would certainly save you a ton of time. Even I can acumen that the two people who picked up Daisy that night in their car hold the key to this enigmatic mystery. If you find them, Officer Price, you'll find my sister." All the while the police were questioning my parents. She was out there somewhere, all on her own, frightened, hurting, vulnerable, terror-stricken. I was my sister's older sibling by 2 years. We were incredibly close. But now she was gone, my life would never be the same again. It was almost as if there was a gaping wide hole in our family's lives that could never be filled, repaired, or even fixed. I would see my poor mother in the supermarket or at any public social engagement, ardently scrutinizing people, skimming the crowds like the fat on the top of a dairy cream milk. With a dogged determination, she would scan the throngs of people with an X-ray vision, longing to see Daisy's familiar face emerge like a ray of sunshine on a thunderous day above the crowds of people. But alas, that never happened. Invariably her hopes were dashed. If the doorbell rang at home, my mother would bolt to the door, faster than a March hare, her heart thundering in her chest, butterflies flapping all around her belly, as she clung on to the fleeting hope that Daisy would be standing there in the doorway, smiling up at us jubilantly with a bright cheeky grin on her face, her long flowing black hair flying around her head in the wind, and her green eyes filled with mischief.
To all intents and purposes, she was always greeted by the postman, either delivering a parcel or a letter, or a visiting friend popping over for a chat. Naturally, my mother feigned a warm smile. She was always effusively welcoming to all our guests, but it was easy to detect the rising disillusionment in her wary eyes that revealed that it really was an encumbrance to conceal her disappointment.
My mother always answered her cell phone on the very first ring, her voice betraying a husky trepidation, as she was holding tightly to a lifeboat of optimistic anticipation for any news concerning Daisy. My long-suffering father was equally as desperate for answers, but as a very reticent, introverted character, he soberly hugged his feelings close to his heart. His stoic, longanimous face remained resolutely steadfast, studiously masking the angst he felt, but he never fooled me. I sensed he was hurting deeply. He was proficiently skilled at camouflaging his emotions by remaining unflappable and stolid. Yet far away, in the depths of his blue eyes, surreptitiously lurking behind the shadows of his dark iris, I could discern his melancholia. Notwithstanding the devastation that had saturated our lives, like the brandy sinking to the bottom of a Christmas cake, my parents were adamant to give me and my brother the greatest lives ever, and they did. My mother would hold me in her arms, kissing me tenderly on the cheeks. She would say to me, "If I had my way, I'd never let you kids go, as you and your brother are the most important people in the entire world to me." 16 years had gone by, with no sight or sound of my sister. My family wanted answers, but we relinquished our hope. We could see no light at the end of this tunnel. On the face of it, we wanted closure, for not knowing what had transpired to your loved one is the most unsurmountable, impervious challenge of all to overcome, for you wear that uncertainty over your life like a choker chain around your neck that can never be relinquished. It strangles you tightly, day after day after day, reminding you starkly that you are obliviously unaware of what happened to your sister, or, of course, your daughter. 16 years earlier, Daisy and I had been invited to Lydia Pearson's 16th birthday party. She lived in a stunning, ostentatious colonial farmhouse, not far away from our home outside of Seattle, nestled on a viridescent large piece of land that was dotted with a plethora of ponderosa pine trees and Douglas firs. She attended the same private school as me and Daisy. She was a gregarious, popular character at school. But like any ebullient teenagers, me and my sister Daisy were very excited about her birthday party. For this is no ordinary, mediocre, nondescript birthday bash. This is Lydia Pearson's birthday party, and no one knows how to throw a party better than the Pearsons. But then, of course, it helps being loaded, literally made of money. Mr. Pearson is dripping with wealth, as my mother used to say. So I naturally envision a man dipped in molten gold. I gather he inherited all his money from the coal mining industry. We knew that this was the type of illustrious party where no expense is spared. Lydia had already told us that there were going to be ice statues of angels fastidiously carved by ice artists, along with non-alcoholic cocktails with umbrellas and exotic tropical fruit. There were formal waiters that would be wearing black bow ties, serving delicious piping hot snacks on elegant silver platters throughout the evening. They had hired one of the best DJ companies in Seattle for the dance floor, lighting and disco music. Furthermore, they had engaged a fire eater, a gymnastic performance and a dazzling fireworks display worth thousands of dollars, so we knew this was a party not to be missed. So tonight was going to be a blast. Several weeks before, Lydia's party was everything everyone was talking about, and what they were going to wear on that illustrious, resplendent occasion was a topic of great persuasion. Some of our friends were being taken to glamorous boutiques to buy that quintessential perfect party dress. But me and Daisy had a large selection of party dresses already to choose from, so we were going to have to decide what we were going to wear on the day in question. Hours before this prestigious, high-profile birthday party, both me and Daisy have turned our meticulous white bathroom into a bomb site, as makeup brushes, lipsticks and eyeshadows are haphazardly strewn all over worktops and sinks. Our clothes recklessly lie in crumpled heaps on the floor. We have exhausted ourselves trying on different clothes to wear for the party. It's taken us all afternoon to finally decide what it actually is we want to both wear. But our bedroom looks like a volcano has erupted, and our cream-carpeted floor has regurgitated piles of fabrics that lie splattered over everything like bright-coloured paints on a white canvas. My mother is standing in our bedroom doorway, her face wearing an expression of unadulterated horror. Her reproving, reproachful eyes hover warily over the garments on the floor. "My goodness gracious, girls! Your bedroom looks like a rocket has exploded in here. How can you treat all your beautiful, expensive clothes with so much disregard? I've spent a lot of my hard-earned money on your clothes. You're treating them like dish rags. You should be ashamed of yourselves. This is a disgrace. You need to tidy this place up before Daddy takes you to that party tonight, or you shan't be going. Have I made myself clear? Now clean this mess up at once." "Mum," piped Daisy, "don't be so unreasonable. This isn't any party we're going to tonight. This is the Pearsons' party. We have to decide what we're going to wear tonight, because this is one hell of a special occasion." "So you decided to try everything in your wardrobe on," says my mother gingerly. "Honestly, you girls, what are you like?" "We're both Libras, Mum. You know what they say about Libras. They're indecisive." "You can say that again," said my mother wearily. "Mind you tidy this mess up." "We won't bother," Daisy says to me, grinning. "We can toss everything into the cupboard. Clean it up tomorrow." "Good idea," I agree. "How do I look, sis?" said my sister, giving me a twirl. My sister is 16 years old, but tonight she looks like she's 20, going on 21, which is rather worrying. She's wearing a gold short-sleeved figure-hugging dress. She looks $1 million. The way she's applied her makeup, she looks so sophisticated that I feel positively underdressed and dowdy next to her. Daisy has always been the effervescent one, with the sparkling, bright personality. I'm like a Sauvignon Blanc. She's like fizzy French champagne. And judging by the way she looks tonight, my sister will be turning heads. Somewhere deep in my gut, this concerns me greatly, as beneath her sophisticated exterior is a fragile, sensitive, vulnerable and innocent 16-year-old girl. "You look amazing, Daisy. You look proper grown up. I wish I could wear a gold dress like that, but I certainly don't have your confidence to carry it off." "Oh, don't be so silly, sis," said Daisy. "Don't be intimidated by a bit of bling. Look, I've got a shiny silver dress here. Why don't you try it on? I bet it'll look $1 million on you." I try the dress on to appease my sister, very doubtful that it will look like anything on me, but am amazed by how good it actually looks. "There," says Daisy. "Didn't I tell you? You look drop-dead gorgeous." She's right. I do look rather good. I can barely recognise myself in the mirror. Tonight Daisy and I are going to stand out from the crowd in our sparkling clothes. I can feel the buzzing anticipatory excitement whirling up in my chest already, and we haven't even got to the party yet. When we arrive at the audaciously grandiose, somewhat pretentious party, it is certainly everything we anticipated, and most probably more. There's a swanky white contemporary designer marquee, flaunting pride of place in the centre of a viridescent green lawn. There is a non-alcoholic bar, promoting a plethora of fabulously exciting-looking non-alcoholic exotic cocktails. There are grand ice displays of glass angels strewn around the marquee. They look like delicate crystal glass statues. We have just observed the most dazzling firework display that must have cost an absolute fortune, and watched a mesmerising acrobatic performance. And the birthday girl has blown out the candles on her large angel-shaped birthday cake, which is a rich velvet cake with a cream cheese filling that tastes absolutely delicious. As Daisy's older sister, I do like to keep a firm eye on my younger sister, as Daisy is not as prudent as I am. She can be capriciously impulsive, recklessly imprudent. Even my mother asks me to keep an eye on her incautious, hot-headed daughter. I'm relying on you, Jeanette, to keep an eye on Daisy tonight. Don't let her hang around with any dubious-looking characters, will you? Or accept any drinks from strangers. You know what your sister's like. She's so whimsically naive and far too trusting for her own good. She's not pragmatic or circumspect like you and I are. Don't you worry, ma'am. I'll keep a firm eye on her, I promise. During the party, Daisy and I danced to this fabulously enticing music, along with the wistful nostalgic tracks from the 60s, 70s and 80s, which are a firm favourite with this crowd, as the lyrics from those times are brilliant. People are cheering and singing to this music, oscillating their arms above their heads, gyrating their hips, dancing the night away. Some people are smoking spiffs, but I can tell some underage people are a little drunk, as someone has clearly smuggled alcohol to this party and is slipping vodka surreptitiously into people's drinks. I can see some people are rather unstable on their feet, wobbling precariously on the dance floor, giggling as if there is no tomorrow. But then where is Daisy? I begin to look for her. I see her chatting to a young man, possibly between the ages of 19 and 21 years old. I can see that Daisy is flirting outrageously with him. She has absolutely no shame. I've never seen her behaving in such an unabashful way before. I'm concerned for my sister's welfare. She's certainly giving off the wrong kind of signals to this young man. I also notice my sister appears to be a little inebriated. I realise with horror that her drink must have been spiked. "Daisy," I say, against the high volume of the music. My sister frowns. She looks annoyed.
"Can't you leave me alone, sis? Can't you see I'm having a conversation with... What's your name? "My name's Murray," says the young man. "Murray and I are having a nice chat together. Now please leave us alone, sis. Stop meddling." My sister's almost staggering backwards on her high heels. I almost have to hold her up so she doesn't fall over. I walk over to my sister and whisper in her ear, "Someone has put alcohol in your drink. You need to be very careful. Now stop flirting with this man. You're leading him on." Daisy is laughing. "My sister thinks I'm drunk." "She thinks I'm drunk. You can't get drunk on fruit punch." She giggles. "Of course I'm not drunk." "I'm coming back," I say, holding up my hand up like a lollipop lady at a pedestrian crossing. "Now you stay there, sis, and don't move." My sister giggles. "I'm not going anywhere, sis. Can't you see I'm right here? I'm not going anywhere." I suddenly realise I've left my purse with my cell phone on the bar table, so I leave my sister for a brief moment and go and retrieve it, as I know what I need to do. I have to call my parents to collect us at once. My sister is tipsy, and her unbridled behaviour tonight is a source of grievous concern for me. For my sister being inebriated like this, there is no telling what she could do with her inhibitions abandoned to the wayside like an unwanted piece of luggage. So off I go to retrieve my purse. But it's not on the bar table. It's vanished. Where is it? I begin to panic, and I go back to Daisy. But she's not where I saw her last. She's vanished. Where the heck did she get to? I was only gone for a couple of minutes, for goodness sake.
I am now very troubled. One of my friends confirms to me that she spot Daisy getting into Murray's car. She really looked rather wobbly on her legs. She was giggling. I think she was bladdered, she tells me. Now I'm losing my bottle. My sister has left the party with an unfamiliar man. I'm not certain if she's going to be all right or not. I try and find Lydia Pearson, and when I do, she bolsters my flagging presence of mind, reassuring me that Murray is a perfect gentleman. She's known him all her life. He'd never harm a hair on my sister's head. So I feel a great deal of reassurance, as I trust Lydia, so I begin to relax. I manage to recover my purse, but now my sister has gone off with this young man, I simply cannot phone my parents. In truth, I'm no longer enjoying this party, as all I can think about is my sister's welfare. I hang around the parking bay surreptitiously, where so many cars are now parked, and then at about midnight, I see Murray climbing out of his car as he returns from goodness knows where, heading right back into the party. But Daisy is not with him. She's nowhere to be seen. Now my heart is thundering in my chest, and panic begins to infuse my entire body, as every hair on the back of my neck is now standing on end. Where is my sister? Where is Daisy? I ask Murray, looking at him with a nonplussed expression on my face. He shrugs his shoulders. Your sister is really weird. I tried to kiss her. She starts screaming blue murder at me. She goes ballistic, is screaming, "Don't touch me. I'm not like that. I'm not a floozy." And then she rushes into the middle of the road, waving down a strange car, accepting a lift from a random stranger. Your sister was looking at me,
as if I was Jack the Ripper. I told her I would take her back to the party. I assured her I wouldn't lay a finger on her, as I'm a gentleman. But no, your sister refused to trust me. I thought she wanted me to kiss her. I must have misread her signals."
"You mean she waved down a perfect stranger's car and just got in like that?"
"Yip," he says, shrugging his shoulders. "I'm a gentleman. I would never take advantage of your sister against her will. I told her that, but she refused to listen to me." I can feel the bile rising up in the back of my throat.
"You call yourself a gentleman," I shriek. "You let my sister get into some strange car of a random stranger. Why on earth did you not stop her?"
"I don't think you've got anything to worry about," said Murray. "Your sister got into a car with a 50-year-old woman inside, with her son. I'm sure they dropped her off home. You're right, I should have stopped her from getting into that car. But everything happened far too quickly. Your sister is exceedingly impulsive, and I think she just panicked. How old is she? She told me she's 20, but she behaves as if she's a lot younger."
"She's 16. There's no way she's 20.
Murray shrugs. "I should have guessed as much." I sighed with relief, as knowing there was a woman in the car with my sister, I felt assured that she'd be dropped home safely. I was to discover that the last person to see my sister alive was Murray, who claimed he had seen my sister getting into the back of a white SUV, with both a woman and her son, and disappearing into the night. Murray could not describe the people in the white SUV very well, so the police had no good leads. It would seem that despite all the police investigations, no one could find sight or sound of my sister. The police believed Murray's account. He was cleared of any suspicions, so it seemed that what had happened to my sister remained steeped in mystery, until one day, 16 years later, the secret that had mystified us all for so long was finally revealed. I remember it was a cold, blustery night. I was in my early 30s at the time, still living at my parents' home with my fiancé. I woke up with a start. I looked at my fiancé and said, "Robert, did you hear that? I think there's someone at the front door." Robert laughed and said, "Can't you hear the wind howling out there? It's knocking the eaves of the house. It's probably just the oak tree." I listened again. I heard the rapping sound again. So I cautiously climbed out of bed, peering out of the window that overlooks the front yard and parking bay of our farmhouse. I see a police car in our driveway, with its blue lights flashing brightly. My heart begins to sink in this poignant moment. I know I'm about to hear what happened to Daisy. Have they found her body after 16 long years, I wonder? I quickly grabbed my dressing gown, wrapping it around me, and throwing on my slippers, and I literally raced down the sweeping staircase to the front door. I can see both my parents nodding as they're talking to an officer. My mother appears to be sobbing. My father is stroking my mother's back as if to console her.
"What is this about, officer?" I ask, interfering into the conversation. "Is this about my sister Daisy? Have you found her yet? Or have you found her body?"
"We found a young woman who claims to be called Daisy Levinsky. She's given us this address as her home. She's alive, but, well, she most certainly is not, I'm afraid. She's been taken to hospital. She's suffering from withdrawal. It appears that she is highly addicted to heroin. She was a prisoner, I gather, in someone's house for over 16 years. She claims tonight she managed to escape. You can go and see her now at the hospital. She's asking after you. The doctors are treating her withdrawal symptoms. She's stabilised now. By all accounts, she was kept prisoner by an odd couple. They forced her to take heroin. Mother and son, I believe. Loopy as fruitcakes, she described them. It's simply a miracle she escaped from them, as they threatened to kill her with a sawn-off shotgun, if she dared to escape from their clutches."
"Daisy alive?" I gasp. "But why are you crying, Mum? She's alive."
"Because, sweetheart, my prayers have been answered. When we arrive at the hospital, I see a young woman lying fast asleep on the hospital bed. She looks nothing like Daisy. Well, not the Daisy I remembered, because the Daisy I remembered was 16 years old, and this woman is much older. I couldn't believe how thin and wasted she appeared. For a moment I thought she couldn't possibly be my sister, but as I peered ever closer to her lined face, I noticed her familiar features, and then I was in no doubt this was my sister. Daisy opens her eyes. Tears spill down her cheeks. "Jeanette, is that you?" she croaks. "Mum,
Dad! We all surround her bed and shed tears of relief, for my sister has finally come back home to us. And even though she's clearly seriously ill, very emaciated, and her skin is lined and papery, having her here back home was beyond our wildest expectations, and there are no words to express the ebullient joy we all feel. Needless to say, the doctor has warned us that it will be a long road to recovery, as she will need to be rehabilitated from her heroin addiction. My sister is seriously underweight, her lungs very phlegmy and congested from being tied up in a damp, musty cellar for so long. The doctor is frankly amazed that she didn't die of pneumonia.
Daisy's story. In the beginning, Lydia Pearson's ostentatious over-the-top party had almost certainly lived up to my expectations, and probably everybody else's too, especially with the fabulous fireworks display, where sparkling, effervescent, fiery light showers resplendently assaulted the velvety black sky in exquisite designs of sparkling colours that sometimes exploded, whooshed, or even sizzled. Then there was the phenomenal acrobatic show that dazzled the entire audience, but when one of the acrobats was able to nimbly manipulate his body in a dexterous, agile way so that he could fit into a tiny suitcase so seamlessly, it had simply blown my mind away. But I think the Fire Eater performance had to be my absolute favourite. I mean, how did that man manage to swallow that flaming rod of fire? The snacks and drinks were wonderfully delicious, hot and piping and very tasty, and the disco music certainly meant that people let their hair down and began to gyrate their hips to the music. It was later on in the evening. I couldn't understand why I suddenly began to feel rather light-headed. Anchor began handing punch cocktails to random people with a big wink. In hindsight, I'm convinced those drinks must have been spiked, because they weren't given to us by the waiters. We were told that the punch cocktails were non-alcoholic, but I didn't feel right in the head. The good thing was my inhibitions abandoned me, and the boy with the dark hair that I fancied came up to me, and he told me I looked incredible. "I love your dress. You look more dazzling than the fireworks display. I haven't been able to keep my eyes off you all evening." "Thanks," I said, blushing. I admit I was shamelessly flirting with him, but in a trice I began to get rather giddy, as if I was on a swaying boat on the ocean, as if I was seasick. The young man I was talking to was called Murray. He was older than me by 5 years, but I made him think that I was about 20. When my sister was gainfully distracted, I seized this quintessential opportunity to escape my sister's hawk-like eyes, hovering over me relentlessly like a ravenous bird of prey. Wherever I go, she's watching me, as if she doesn't trust me an inch, and I can't stand that. She's such a protective older sister, and much as I love her, I certainly wish she'd leave me alone. Well, that's how I felt that evening. She's always telling me I'm whimsically naive. She worries about me in social situations, and so does my mother. Luckily, I fully succeeded in evading my reproachful sister, but not for long. Oh, my God, here she comes. Just my luck. "Who's that girl in the silvery dress?" says Murray. "She's coming this way. You haven't upset her, have you? She looks like she might want to punch your lights out." I groan as my sister comes marching towards me, wearing a draconian expression upon her face. My face heats with embarrassment. I blush bright red. I want the ground to swallow me whole. She whispers in my ears, telling me I'm making a fool of myself, flirting shamelessly, and that I'm as drunk as a skunk. I'm momentarily relieved when she tells me she's got to go and get her purse, but I must stay put exactly where I am. Murray says to me, "Let's get out of here. Don't you fancy a drive in my car, or a spin, shall we say?" I'm delighted with the prospect of spending quality time with this handsome young man, away from the prying eyes of my sister, so I don't hesitate to accept his offer. Luckily, Murray's car is parked further down the country road, away from the parking bay, so I climb into the seat next to him. I'm a little wobbly on my feet, I will admit, and we go for an enjoyable spin together into the countryside. "Thank goodness we're away from that loud, blaring music," he says to me. "Now we can conduct a civilized conversation together. And better still, your interfering sister won't be bothering us now. Is she always like that? So very intense?" "Pretty much.
I know she means well, but, she's very protective. She really irritates me sometimes. I'm sure she has your best interests at heart. So tell me about yourself. I proceed to tell Murray about my life, but of course I've lied about my age. I know he'll think I'm a baby if I tell him I'm 16, and that would be very embarrassing. I'm thoroughly enjoying our conversation, when he says to me, "Do you mind if I kiss you?" And he leans towards me. I've never been kissed by a boy before, so I panic. I push him away. "Don't do that, please," I said, opening his car door. I run away from the clearing. I can hear Murray calling after me. "Daisy, please come back. I'll take you back to the party if you like. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to come on to you so strong. I like you. Please, let's just talk." I'm panicking. It doesn't help that I'm unsteady on my legs. There really must have been alcohol in that punch. My head is whirling all over the place. I run into the road as a car drives by. I wave them down frantically. There's a young man in his 30s sitting next to a woman in her early 50s. He pulls down his driver's window. "Are you all right?" says the man, his eyes flickering over to Murray, who's standing outside his car that's parked in the clearing, watching me with a rather bewildered expression on his face, as if he doesn't know exactly what he should be doing. He's still calling after me, telling me not to accept a lift from a stranger. I realised I'd probably overreacted. I should really go back to Murray's car, but I've already flagged down this car. I would look like a prize idiot if I returned to Murray's car with my tail between my legs. I mean, he was only trying to kiss me, for goodness sake. By all accounts, he's a rather nice man. He does genuinely appear concerned about me. But I instinctively don't like this man in the driver's seat of the stranger's car. I can see what I perceive to be leering, licentious eyes, sizing me up and down like a piece of meat in a meat market. In truth, this man makes my skin crawl. I'm hesitant about him, very reluctant, but it's his mother's presence sitting next to him in the car that makes me feel fallaciously consoled that I will indeed be safe if I accept a lift from these folk. "Hello, dear. What's wrong with you? You do look rather upset. Can we offer you a lift? I assure you it's no trouble at all. Is that man over there giving you grief? He hasn't touched you inappropriately, has he?" "No, nothing like that. He wanted to kiss me and I panicked." I noticed the mother and son exchanging private looks together. I guess they're thinking I'm very juvenile and naive, just a silly little girl throwing a tantrum. But I had no experience with boys and felt just like a fish out of water. "Go on," says the woman. "Get into the car. We'll give you a lift home if you like." I need to get back to the party. My sister, she'll be worrying about me. She'll be worrying about me, I think." "Well, get in. We'll take you there," she says kindly. It's with a degree of hesitancy I step into the back seat of the car. It smells damp and musty, like wet dog. I begin to tremble ever so slightly, becoming rather overwhelmed with a bodeful, inauspicious feeling which I try to shake off like the water from a shaggy dog's coat. But it seems to hover around me like an obnoxious bad smell that I just can't shift. I almost want to open the door, run quickly back to Murray's car, but it's too late for that. I've made my own bed. I'm going to have to lie on it now. What the hell was I thinking? Murray only wanted to kiss me, for goodness sake. He wasn't asking me to do a lap dance for him. What's wrong with me? I know the answer, of course. My sister's absolutely right. I'm ignorantly naive, foolishly impulsive, and these characteristics have landed me in hot water before. "Are you all right, dear?" says the older woman, turning around to look at me in the back seat of her car, while her son presses down the accelerator. The amorous way he's looking at me through the interior rear-view mirror makes me recoil in terror, but the woman's voice is oddly reassuring. "Look at you, dear. You're trembling. I think you've been drinking tonight. You're slightly drunk, I think. Inebriated, they call it." "I think the drinks at the party were spiked. My head, it's spinning. I feel a kind of wobbly, and I can't think straight, really." "Sounds like your drinks were spiked, dear. I've just got the thing for you," said the woman, opening her purse, handing me a couple of pills and a bottle of water. "These'll make you feel so much better." I gratefully reach for the pills and swig them back with a sip of water. "So where are you taking me?" "We're taking you back to the party," says the man in the front seat. It's close to here. If you could drop me back now, I'd be very thankful, very grateful. My sister's waiting for me there. I think she'll be worried about me a lot. She'd be very worried about me. My sister, she gets worried, you see. Of course she does. As I'm sitting back in the car, I feel my eyes getting droopier and droopier and droopier. I'm sure I hear the man saying to his mother, "She's a keeper. We can make an exotic dancer out of her yet. Cats, here we come, cats." The next time I wake up, I find myself lying in a damp cellar, on a thin, damp mattress. My ankles are chained to the floor like a dog. Where am I? Oh, my God! Is this some kind of sick warp joke? Where am I?
It's over the next 16 years that my life becomes a living hell. This heinous, degenerate couple, mother and son, willfully keep me a prisoner in the cold, damp, musty cellar of their home. It's like I'm trapped there, like an animal with nowhere to run, in this dark, oppressive place, devoid of any light. I'm coughing all the time. My lungs become damp from this murky atmosphere. The sun is constantly shooting me up with heroin, so that I become completely addicted to the drug, as it's their way of extracting some kind of control over me. And once they have me completely dependent on the drugs, then they start manipulating me to do exactly what they want. They give me dry bread, milk and sugar to eat, and if I'm lucky I might just get some scrambled eggs from time to time. I hate to say that the mother whom I thought I could trust is equally as depraved as her son. They bring me into the lounge late at night with all the curtains drawn so that I can't see what the outside looks like. I have to perform for them in exchange for being able to shoot myself up with heroin. These days I'm doing it for myself. I can't function normally without my regular heroin shots. The perverse son, whom the mother calls Big Boy, has a warped fantasy about cats. He likes me to dress up in this cat outfit with lycra leggings and a pair of ears. The mother does my makeup so my face looks exactly like a cat with whiskers and all the works. I'm expected to meow like a cat, rub my head against Big Boy's legs, walk around the living room on my hands and knees, purring, pretending to be a cat, while Big Boy occasionally hits my backside with a long riding whip. When I behave like this, Big Boy looks orgasmic, while his mother sits back and watches me in a nonchalant way, as she clicks away merrily with her knitting needles. She's always making sweaters for Big Boy. I'm only thankful that Big Boy has never physically molested me. I know that Big Boy and his mother are completely cuckoo. For years I tried to look for a quintessential opportunity of escape. I think Big Boy and his mother falsely assume that my addiction to heroin means I will never leave. But there is a fighting spirit burning inside me that knows that despite my addiction, I want to rise above it, to get the hell out of this place, find my safe way back home. I never get a chance to escape from the sombre, cobwebbed confines of the soulless, ghastly, iniquitous prison that has crushed the joy out of my soul, like a boot thumping down hard on an insect, so that all that is on the inside comes squishing out. I feel like that myself. There's a faint residue of the old me fighting back, that I'm relying on to pull me through this hell-like existence that knows no love, light, or compassion. Big Boy and his mother are punctilious about locking all the doors in the house when they bring me up to the lounge from the cellar. They also pull all the curtains so I can't see outside. I'm always relieved to escape the confines of this dark, uncongenial place that is devoid of light, where my ankles are tied to a long chain, which means that I can pace up and down and do my ablutions in a big bucket. Sometimes it can rarely smell down there, if they haven't collected the bucket for a few days, and that smell can make me heave. In the winter months I have sometimes almost frozen to death down there. It's been that cold. Big Boy and his mother only feed me once a day with a tray of food at about 5 p.m. Luckily, being high on drugs does mean that food has taken a back seat in my life, so my hunger is often suppressed. When I lie there on the mattress in this dark, dingy, lonely place, where for most of the day I am forgotten and abandoned, for even if I shouted from the cellar, no one would even hear me. Over the years I've made friends with mice that scamper across the floor and spiders that lay a plethora of webs around the uneven walls. One day when Big Boy brings me to the lounge from the cellar, I realise that the front door has been left ajar, so slightly ajar it's barely noticeable. For the first time in 16 years, he has forgotten to lock the front door. I've been waiting for this day to arrive, when Big Boy and his mother become complacent. Big Boy is now sitting on the upholstered chair, oblivious that the front door is slightly ajar, while behind the blind in the living room I'm expected to get dressed in my cat outfit. Then Big Boy's mother will ply me with stage makeup to turn me into a cat. So while I'm pretending to get changed into my cat outfit, I surreptitiously slip behind the blind, crawling clandestinely behind the upholstered chairs, on my hands and knees, until I find my way into the entrance hall. I can hear the distant mumble of voices in the living room, as Big Boy and his mother are engaged in conversation together. I'm standing in the entrance hall, where coats are hanging on hooks, and walking shoes and boots are lying in a straight line. I grab the old woman's sneakers, and a torch that I find perched on the telephone table. I can feel my heart pounding in my chest, my stomach dancing with butterflies, my hand trembling violently, as I quickly push the front door ever so slightly ajar. But I press it open just a little bit more, so I can squeeze through it very easily. And luckily, because I'm so slight, they barely hear a thing. In fact, they don't hear me at all. I feel relieved to see that the door is well oiled, so it hasn't squeaked. I find myself standing on a wooden deck. I quickly tiptoe down the steps and hurriedly put on the old lady's sneakers, as I know I won't be able to run very far, if my sensitive feet are pierced by any sharp thorns. For 16 long years I've not seen the outside of this property, as even at night the living room curtains are fastidiously drawn. I hastily flash the torchlight around the yard, realizing that this house is nestled in the middle of the woods, as wherever I look, I'm literally surrounded by a plethora of trees. It's as if fate is shining on me tonight with a generous kindness, for I know that I'm being divinely guided and helped. I can sense the promise of freedom beckoning to me as I speedily run through those trees. I'm breathing terribly fast. My heart is still pounding. I know it'll only be a matter of minutes before Big Boy discovers I'm missing. I know he'll come after me. He's always warned me that if I ever dared try to escape, he would blow my head off with his sawn-off shotgun and bury me in the woods, that I would never ever be found. I know that the man is capable of anything. I believe him. I quickly dash through the tall ponderosa pine trees. My nose is greeted to the rich smell, the buttery sweet notes of their fragrant bouquet. There's a gentle wind blowing against my face that is so refreshing and revitalizing, as I haven't embraced the elements for so very long. And this is just marvellous. I will not deny that it is tenebrously dark in the forest, so I am briefly thankful for the light of my torch. But the silvery shafts of moonlight dapple the forest in shafts of pretty ethereal light. I can hear bullets thundering into the night, and heavy feet plundering towards the forest. Big Boy is coming. The bold light of his torch is infusing the forest with a powerful beam of light. I begin to panic. I can't think straight. My heart is still thundering so fast in my ears. The hairs on the back of my neck are standing on end. I've got this far. I can't lose now. I decide the best decision is to hide behind a large tree and hope for the best, as the night is my best friend, as I can cling to the dark shadows, hoping that I can remain inconspicuous to Big Boy. I can hear the sounds of crickets and frogs, and then Big Boy's deep voice penetrates the woodgrove.
I know you're there, Daisy. I'm going to find you, and I'm going to blow your head off. I warned you, if you ever tried to escape from us, I would kill you personally myself.
I've never heard Big Boy sound so angry before. The tone of his voice is audibly very aggrieved. I can hear him lashing shrubbery with the back of his sawn-off shotgun, shining his torchlight on absolutely everything. And then he sees me. Oh, my God, I'm finished.
I told you, Daisy, I would find you, he says. You're a dead girl walking now.
I scream so loudly at the top of my lungs in sheer terror. I begin to run, while Big Boy's bullets are flying behind me. I mean, I've got nothing to lose, have I? He's going to kill me anyway. I continue to scream as I run. I'm so gripped by terror. I deliberately try to zigzag so that the bullets miss me every time. I can hear him say, "Damn," All of a sudden, the forest is filled with this ponderous roar that reverberates through the entire woodland grove like a blazing siren. Every living thing is silenced by this discomposing sound. As if by magic, the crickets and the frogs become silent. Even Big Boy has stopped shooting. He freezes up like an ice statue, as if he's paralysed by this sound. I can hear him saying, "What the heck is that?" Then something monstrously big, that sounds like a rhino in the thicket, begins to charge and bolt through the trees at 1,000 miles an hour. And then we both see him. I'm astounded by what I'm beholding. I realise at once that this creature is a Bigfoot. As Big Boy's torch lights up the entire creature, there is no mistaking what our eyes are discerning. I can see this Bigfoot is all male. His energy is powerful. I can tell he's about 8 foot tall, 700 pounds, and is stronger than an ox. I notice his body is swathed in long flowing dark hair that is so dark it's almost navy blue, and he has a very distinctive pointed head. Big Boy tries to shoot at the creature, but his barrel is empty. He tries to quickly reload it, backing away as he does so, his eyes filled with terror. The creature pulls back his lips and screams at Big Boy, who begins to hightail it out of the woods so fast, leaving me standing there looking quite bewildered. This humongous creature swivels his head around and he looks at me. And when I look at his noble human face, into the depths of his deep-set dark eyes, I can see that they're incredibly kind, very gentle. The creature appears concerned for me. In 16 long years, living with Big Boy and his mother, my life has been devoid of love. The way this Bigfoot is looking at me, I know I am in the presence of a loving friend. "Not good man," I hear his voice say in my head. "Let me take you to safe place. Not safe here." The creature bends down. He gestures for me to climb onto his shoulders. I don't need any encouragement. I completely trust him. I know I'm safe in his charge. I climb onto his shoulders, and he glides with me through the woods so gracefully, holding my legs down with his overlong arms. I feel as if I'm being rescued by an angel of God. The creature then puts me down at the door of a farmhouse. He looks at me with his warm, bright eyes. "Good people here," he says. "Godspeed." And then I watch him gliding away into the forest until he's gone. I realised I hadn't even thanked the Bigfoot for rescuing me, but I think he knows in his heart how grateful I really am. Back to Jeanette. To cut a long story short, it was wonderful to be reunited with my sister Daisy again. It had been far too long, but she did have to receive medical help with her heroin addiction. But I'm so glad to inform you these days she is drug-free. The 2 people who kept my sister prisoner were arrested and sent to prison. My sister is receiving therapy for the emotional abuse she sustained, but she believes emphatically that Big Boy would have killed her and buried her under the forest floor if that Bigfoot had not intervened and rescued her, saving her life. If there is one lesson my family has learnt from this ordeal, it is that it is good to watch each other's backs, and nothing is more important than those you love. So there you are. That's my story. Wow, what an incredible story. Until next time, goodbye and good night.